Alright, here we go again. This is part 2 of the Buddhist scriptures recordings. So we're now moving on to the real presentation of the ideas in the text, which is the concept of not self. This is broken up into a few different sections. So this first one is commonly referred to as the Chariot, as you can see in the text there. So we'll just read this part here. And yeah, you can focus on that for a little bit. But what we're going to see is this is the beginning of the discussion between King Melinda and Nagasena. So we'll see a few pleasantries exchanged to begin with, but then what will happen is they'll start to talk about this idea of self, and very quickly Nagasena establishes the Buddhist perspective that the concept of self is really an illusion. It's, we like to put labels on things, including people. So we like to label, for example, Nagasena, but that this is really just a name. There is no such thing as Nagasena. This is a bit perplexing to King Melinda, and at first he sort of takes the mickey out of Nagasena a little bit, but Nagasena ends up using the example of the king's chariot, which he rode in to arrive at where they're having their discussion now. As an example of this fact that the self doesn't exist, which by the end we'll see King Melinda agreeing to. So here we go, highlighters at the ready. So we're going from the heading, the doctrine of not self. So here we go, the Chariot. And King Melinda asked him, "How is your reverence known, and what is your name, sir?" "As Nagasena I am known, O great king, and as Nagasena do my fellow religious habitually address me. But although parents give such names as Nagasena, or Surasena, or Virasena, or Siasena, nevertheless the word Nagasena is just a denomination, a designation, a conceptual term, a current application, a mere name. For no real person can here be apprehended." So Nagasena here very quickly establishing the Buddhist doctrine of not self. Nagasena is what people call him, but he does not exist. Nagasena does not exist. But King Melinda explained, "Now listen, you 500 Greeks and 80,000 monks. This Nagasena tells me that he is not a real person. How can I be expected to agree with that?" And to Nagasena he said, "If, most revered Nagasena, no person can be apprehended in reality, who then, I ask you, gives you what you require by way of robes, food, lodging, and medicines? Who is it that consumes them? Who is it that guards morality, practices meditation, and realizes the 4 paths and their fruits, and thereafter nirvana? Who is it that kills living beings, takes what is not given, commits sexual misconduct, tells lies, drinks intoxicants? Who is it that commits the 5 deadly sins? For if there were no person, there could be no merit and no demerit, no doer of meritorious or demeritorious deeds, and no agent behind them, no fruit of good and evil deeds, and no reward or punishment for them. If someone should kill you, O venerable Nagasena, he would not commit any murder. And you yourself, venerable Nagasena, would not be a real teacher or instructor or ordained monk. You just told me that your fellow religious habitually address you as Nagasena. What then is this Nagasena? Are perhaps the hairs of your head Nagasena?" Actually, we'll pause for a moment before we get into this back and forward. Excuse me. So the King Melinda here is establishing what most of us commonly perceive to be the self. To go back a little bit, he's saying, who is it that consumes food? Who is it that wears the clothes and sleeps in the bed that you sleep in? Who is it that meditates and does all of the things that you do? Who is it that does the right thing, so the meritorious thing? And who is it that does the wrong thing, the demeritorious thing? If I was to kill you, who is it that dies? And so the king is, probably bringing up the same questions that any of us would if we were presented with someone who was saying that the self does not exist. Well, I have a pretty clear conception of self. I am sitting in my chair talking into a set of headphones. If there is no self, then who is doing that? Who is making this recording? This is pretty much what King Milinda is asking. So we'll see Nagasena begin his response here. So what then is this Nagasena? Are perhaps the hairs of the head Nagasena? No, great king. Or perhaps the hairs of the body? No, great king. Or perhaps the nails, teeth, skin, muscles, sinews, bones, marrows, kidneys, heart, liver, serous membranes, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, stomach, excrement, the bile, phlegm, pus, blood, grease, fat, tears, sweat, spittle, snot, fluid of the joints, urine, or the brain in the skull, are they this Nagasena? I feel like the king probably didn't need to go through all of that. And just for Nagasena to say, no, great king. But what he's clearly presenting here is, well, what is Nagasena then? Like, what are you? Are you your body? So he's dealing first here with the physical notion of self, and then he's going to, in the next section here, pass on to the mental perception of self. So no, great king. Or is form this Nagasena, or feeling, or perceptions, or impulses, or consciousness? So here he's talking about mental phenomenon, or mental processes. No, great king. So Nagasena has here said that we are neither our body nor our mind, in whatever way you might want to discuss that. Now, Buddhists don't believe in a soul. So obviously they would say that that is not the self. But if we're looking at and linking back to the mind-body debate, Nagasena here is pretty clearly saying that we are neither the body nor the mind. Then is this combination of form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness? Sorry, no, great king. Then it is outside the combination of form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. No, great king. So here Nagasena has been a little bit confusing in that he just said that we're not things like consciousness, and here he's saying that we are things like consciousness. So a bit confusing here from Nagasena, but it should clarify itself soon enough. Then, ask as I may, I can discover no Nagasena at all. Just a mere sound of is this Nagasena, but who is the real Nagasena? Your reverence has told a lie, has spoken a falsehood. There is no Nagasena. Thereupon the venerable Nagasena said to King Milinda, as a king you have been brought up in great refinement, and you avoid roughness of any kind. If you would walk at midday on this hot, burning, and sandy ground, then your feet would have to tread on the rough and gritty gravel and pebbles, and they would hurt you. Your body would get tired, your mind impaired, and your awareness of your body would be associated with pain. How then did you come? On foot or on a mount? So here, Nagasena is really just asking the king how he arrived there. So this the king replying, I did not come, sir, on foot, but on a chariot. If you have come on a chariot, then please explain to me what a chariot is. Is the pole the chariot? No, reverend sir. Is then the axle the chariot? No, reverend sir. Is it then the wheels, or the framework, or the flagstaff, or the yoke, or the reins, or the goad stick? No, reverend sir. Then is it the combination of pole, axe, wheels, framework, flagstaff, yoke, reins, and goad, which is the chariot? No, reverend sir. Then is this chariot outside the combination of pole, axle, wheels, framework, flagstaff, yoke, reins, and goad? No, reverend sir. Then, ask as I may, I can discover no chariot at all. Just a mere sound is this chariot. So we'll pause for a moment. What Nagasena is pointing out here is that, using the example of the king's chariot, when we think of something, so it sounds a little bit strange to be talking about it as a chariot, but really any physical entity works in this way, including ourselves. It's not one of its parts. So a chariot is not its wheel. It's not its axle. But nor is it simply the combination of those parts, because the combination of those parts might be called something else. A car has a wheel and an axle as well. So the combination of the parts of the chariot don't make it the chariot, nor are the individual parts the chariot. So Nagasena is basically saying, well then what is? What is this concept of the chariot? Okay, so if it's neither the parts of the chariot, nor is it the combination of the parts, then where does the truth of the chariot lie, or the real chariot? So continuing on. But what is the real chariot? Your Majesty has told a lie, has spoken a falsehood. There really is no chariot. Your Majesty is the greatest king in the whole of India, of whom then are you afraid that you do not speak the truth? And he exclaimed, now listen, you 500 Greeks. So Nagasena is kind of using the king's own mocking tone back on him. At the start of the piece, the king sort of turned to everyone gathered and made fun of Nagasena. Nagasena is now doing that to the king. Now listen, you 500 Greeks and 80,000 monks. This King Milinda tells me that he has come on a chariot, but when asked to explain to me what a chariot is, he cannot establish its existence. How can one possibly approve of that? The 500 Greeks thereupon applauded the venerable Nagasena and said to King Milinda, now let your Majesty get out of that if you can. But King Milinda said to Nagasena, I have not, Nagasena, spoken a falsehood, for it is in dependence on the pole, the axle, the wheels, the framework, the flagstaff, etc., that there takes place this denomination, chariot, this conceptual term, a current appellation, and a mere name. So here, King Milinda has basically agreed to what Nagasena said at the start. What we're really talking about here is just the name. It's not really a separate thing. We call this collection of parts a chariot. It's a concept, but it has no real existence. Your Majesty has spoken well about the chariot. It is just so with me. In dependence on the 32 parts of the body and the 5 skandhas, there takes place this denomination, Nagasena. This designation, this conceptual term, a current appellation, and a mere name. In ultimate reality, however, this person cannot be apprehended. And this has been said by our sister Vajira when she was face to face with the Lord. Where all constituent parts are present, the word a chariot is applied. So likewise, where the skandhas are, the term a being commonly is used. So here we're seeing another piece of Buddhist doctrine being brought in, but it's this idea that when we have this collection of parts together, then we call it a chariot. If you're thinking about, let's bring it back to human concepts of self and personal identity, the collection of your parts and your mental processes, we call that your name. Okay? So that is you. But this is just a label that we put on this collection. This collection can adjust and change, but we still perceive it by that name. So the name isn't truly existing. There is no self. It is really just a collection of parts put together. It is not the same as those parts put together, nor is it the parts individually. It's just a concept. It's an idea. So self is purely an idea. It is wonderful, Nagasena. It is astonishing, Nagasena. Most brilliantly have these questions been answered. Were the Buddha himself here, he would approve what you have said. Well spoken, Nagasena. Well spoken. So, look, I know it's a little bit confusing to be talking about. We're leaving the reading there for now. But it is this idea that the chariot, the concept of a chariot, is just an idea. It's not its wheel, nor is it the combination of the wheel with the other parts, but it is just the idea. It's a label that we place on things to allow us to sort of navigate this world a little bit easier. So that if I say to you, hey, go get the chariot, you know what I'm talking about. But the chariot is not really a thing. There is no truth to it. There's no reality to it. It exists purely as a concept. So I hope that is at least a little bit clear. Remember, this is only the very first part of the reading. It will build, and hopefully your understanding builds as we go through each of the parts. Okay? So next up is personal identity and rebirth. So let's find out how reincarnation can happen if the concept of self doesn't exist. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button. And my battery's running low, so I'll see you soon. Bye.